Adam Johnson, Premier League winger, England international, and yes, convicted child sex offender. You can Google it, but you don't need to. Here's the tea. Early to mid-2000s, Johnson looked like your classic, nearly made-it winger. Came through at Middlesbrough, had his moments at Man City, then landed at Sunderland. Left foot, pace, that squad player energy that keeps you around. But Johnson had absolutely no boundaries. In March 2015, everything came crashing down. He was arrested on suspicion of sexual activity with a 15-year-old. Sunderland suspended him immediately. Standard procedure, right? But then, plot twist that will make your skin crawl, just 16 days later, they lifted the suspension, let him train, let him play, all while he was on bail for child sexual offences. Morals benched, minutes restored. When the case finally reached court in early 2016, the real horror emerged. Johnson had already told Sunderland's CEO that he'd kissed the girl, that he'd been grooming her. The club later claimed they didn't grasp the full extent until trial. Their chief executive resigned, calling it a serious mistake. The jury wasn't confused though. Johnson had already pleaded guilty to grooming and one count of sexual activity. He was convicted on another count and sentenced to 6 years. He served half, typical in England, and walked free in March 2019. Career effectively over. April 15th, 1989, FA Cup semi-final, Liverpool vs Nottingham Forest at Sheffield Wednesday's Hillsborough Stadium. Sunshine, noise, thousands of fans ready for the biggest game of their season. Then, English football lived through its absolute worst day. The match kicked off on time, but outside, dangerous congestion was building like a ticking bomb. Police made a fatal decision. They ordered Exit Gate C to be opened. A massive surge of fans funneled straight into already packed central pens behind the goal. The crush killed 97 people and injured hundreds more. The game stopped just minutes after kickoff, later abandoned, but that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Years of lies followed, cover-ups, victim blaming that would make you sick. The most infamous? A front page screaming, "The truth," claiming the fans were to blame, drunk, violent, out of control. That claim didn't survive the actual facts, the real facts. Appalling crowd management, catastrophic policing failures, and a stadium whose safety certification was stuck in the dark ages. In 2012, an independent panel finally blew the cover-ups apart. In 2016, new inquests ruled the victims were unlawfully killed and the supporters were absolutely not to blame. The name Hillsborough became football's biggest warning, people before policing plans, safety before kickoff times. Barry Bennell, the predator in plain sight. Barry Bennell wasn't a star, wasn't a goal scorer, he was a youth coach, and allegedly one of the most dangerous predators English football has ever seen. For years, he worked in youth setups around Crewe Alexandra with connections to Manchester City's junior system. Boys with football dreams were groomed, abused, and silenced. The system protected him while destroying kids. In 2016, survivors finally started speaking publicly. Courageous, heartbreaking testimony that opened the floodgates on decades of alleged abuse. But then the scale became clear. Sources say it was industrial-level predatory behavior. In 2018, Bennell was sentenced to 31 years for dozens of offenses, later extended again after further convictions. He died in prison in 2023, but the damage was already lifelong for his victims. It forced English football to confront safeguarding as something more than just a paragraph in some handbook nobody reads. Luis Suárez versus Patrice Evra, when racism gets defended. Liverpool versus Manchester United 2011-12 season. The fixture was already crackling with tension before kickoff, but then Luis Suárez allegedly racially abused Patrice Evra during the match. After an FA investigation, Suárez got hit with an 8-match ban and a hefty fine. Liverpool's response? This is where it gets properly embarrassing. The club released statements blasting the verdict. Players warmed up wearing Suárez shirts in support, a PR own goal that aged like milk in the sun. When Suárez returned from his ban, he refused Evra's handshake live on camera, the whole world watching as he snubbed the victim. He apologized the next day, damage already done. Suárez later argued about cultural context of the word he used. The FA had already ruled it racist within English football's standards. The man went on to score for fun, win major trophies, and also, famously, fight 3 different opponents across his career. The talent was undeniable. So were the stains on his reputation. Bruno Fernandes, the goalkeeper who fed his ex to dogs. Here's where football gets properly dark. Bruno Fernandes de Souza, Brazilian goalkeeper, former Flamengo star, and convicted murderer who allegedly had his ex-girlfriend killed and fed to his Rottweilers. This isn't a typo, this actually happened. Bruno was living the dream at Flamengo, fan favorite goalkeeper, earning serious money, tipped to play for Brazil at the 2014 World Cup. Then he met Elisa Samudio, a model who'd allegedly been linked to Cristiano Ronaldo. They had an affair, she got pregnant, Bruno was already married with 2 daughters. When Elisa demanded child support in 2010, Bruno allegedly decided murder was easier than monthly payments. According to prosecutors, he conspired with 6 accomplices to kidnap, torture, and strangle her. Then they dismembered her body and fed it to his dogs. Her body was never found. In 2013, Bruno was convicted and sentenced to 22 years. But then, Brazilian justice system plot twist, he was released on a technicality after just 6 years in 2017. Multiple football clubs allegedly lined up to sign him. His response to killing the mother of his child? I made a mistake. Mistakes happen in life. The man literally promoted a dog kennel in 2020 while serving time. The audacity is genuinely sickening. Calciopoli, when Italy's giants got caught red-handed, the year that broke Italian football, Calciopoli, the match-fixing scandal that saw Juventus stripped of 2 Serie A titles and relegated to Serie B for the first time in their history. But this wasn't just about Juventus, this was about an entire system built on corruption. Luciano Moggi, Juventus's general manager, was caught on wiretaps talking to referee selectors about appointing particular referees to particular games. The evidence was damning, a shadow network of untraceable phone cards, secret payoffs, and alleged threats that no match official could refuse. The scandal painted a picture of Moggi communicating in an exclusive manner with referee designators, attempting to influence results by picking certain referees he considered more favorable to Juventus. 4 major clubs got hammered. Juventus relegated to Serie B, Fiorentina and Lazio also dropped down, AC Milan stayed up but lost 15 points. Inter Milan was awarded the 2005 to 2006 Serie A title after Juventus was stripped of it. But then the plot thickened. A subsequent investigation, dubbed Calciopoli Bis, implicated many other clubs, including Inter Milan, but they weren't put on trial due to the statute of limitations. Sources say the whole system was rotten. Juventus just got caught first. Keith Gillespie, the fastest self-destruct in Premier League history. Some players chase hat tricks. Keith Gillespie claimed something way more embarrassing, the fastest red card for a substitute in Premier League history. Reading versus Sheffield United, January 2007. Gillespie comes on as a sub and seconds later throws an elbow, walks straight back off the pitch. Red card in roughly 12 to 15 seconds, a Premier League record for instant regret. For perspective, Steven Gerrard once got sent off 38 seconds after coming on against United. Gillespie's was so quick you barely had time to boo the decision. And just to clear up a long-running pub myth, the 2006 collision that fractured Peter Cech's skull. That was Stephen Hunt of Reading, not Gillespie. Different goalkeeper endangering incident entirely. West Ham versus Millwall, when football turned feral. August 25th, 2009. West Ham versus Millwall in the League Cup. A Tuesday night that should have been routine football. Instead, it turned into something out of a disaster movie. Rival fans clashed outside and inside Upton Park. A man was stabbed outside the ground. Multiple pitch invasions. The game somehow finished, but the aftermath was ugly as hell. Arrests, front page headlines, and hefty charges all around. An FA commission later fined West Ham 6 figures and hammered home the obvious. If you can't guarantee basic order, the spectacle means absolutely nothing. Sources say it was one of the most violent nights in modern English football. FIFA's $150 million corruption empire. May 27, 2015. The day FIFA's House of Cards came tumbling down in spectacular fashion. The US Department of Justice disclosed a 47-count, 164-page criminal indictment charging 7 FIFA executives with having received $150 million in bribes over a period of more than 2 decades. 7 FIFA officials arrested at a luxury hotel in Zurich. The charges alleged widespread corruption over a 24-year period, including wire fraud, racketeering, and money laundering. But this was just the tip of the iceberg. FIFA, awash with its $1 billion annual revenue from sponsorship and other sources, possessed ample funds for manipulated dispersal through kickbacks and other criminal means. Sources say the corruption reached the very top of world football. Sepp Blatter, FIFA president since 1998, announced his resignation just days after the arrests. In a recent podcast, Blatter revealed that French President Sarkozy allegedly pressured UEFA chief Michel Platini to vote for Qatar's 2022 World Cup bid. The Qatar selection was already controversial, a tiny desert nation with no football culture getting the world's biggest tournament. Multiple allegations emerged of Qatar paying $1.5 million bribes to African officials, though Qatar denied all wrongdoing. 11 of the 22 committee members who voted on the 2018 and 2022 tournaments were later fined, suspended, banned for life, or prosecuted for corruption. World football's governing body had allegedly been turned into a criminal enterprise. Mason Greenwood, the Wonder Kids fall from grace. Mason Greenwood had ice-cold finishing and seemed built for superstardom at Manchester United, the perfect modern forward for the social media age. Then January 2022 happened. Disturbing images and audio surfaced online. Manchester United suspended him immediately. Nike dropped his sponsorship deal. The football world held its breath. In October 2022, he was charged with serious offences, but then, plot twist, in February 2023, the Crown Prosecution Service dropped all charges. Key witnesses allegedly withdrew, and new material came to light. They said there was no longer a realistic prospect of conviction. United explored bringing him back. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Instead, they pivoted. Loaned to Getafe in September 2023. Then in July 2024, a permanent move to Marseille for allegedly around 30 million euros. The same sport that devours scandal also devours form, and Greenwood's goals started talking again in Spain and France. But this story still splits every room it enters. The debate rages between what's legal, what's morally right, and what football clubs choose to stand for when the cameras are rolling. Zidane's headbutt, when legends lose their cool. 2006 World Cup Final, Italy vs France. Zinedine Zidane's last ever game as a player. 10 minutes into extra time, Zidane sent Marco Materazzi crashing to the turf with a ferocious headbutt to the chest. In retaliation for a crude remark about his sister, he later explained. The defining image of the entire tournament wasn't Italy lifting the trophy, it was one of football's greatest players walking past the World Cup trophy after being sent off for an act of pure madness. Regardless of Zidane's reasoning, it was one of the most shameful endings to any football career. France lost on penalties, a legend's career ended in disgrace. Maradona's drug test disaster, 1994 World Cup. One of the all-time World Cup controversies, Maradona, once again one of the game's leading icons, was sensationally removed from the 1994 tournament after testing positive for the banned substance ephedrine. Suspicions arose following his infamous wide-eyed celebration after scoring against Greece in the group stages, the celebration that broke the internet before the internet existed. Argentina's greatest player, kicked out of his final World Cup for failing a drug test. He would never play for his country again. The 9-0 club when beatings became routine. For decades, Manchester United's 9-0 demolition of Ipswich Town in 1995 was the poster child for Premier League humiliation. Andy Cole scored 5 that day. You'd think that kind of scoreline would never happen again. Modern football said, "Hold my energy drink." Southampton 0-9, Leicester 2019, Manchester United 9-0, Southampton 2021, Liverpool 9-0 Bournemouth 2022. Same scoreboard, different eras, same level of embarrassment. Ipswich's massacre remains the original, but it's got plenty of company now. Allegedly, Southampton holds the record for both giving and receiving 9-0 beatings in the Premier League. That's the kind of history you don't put on the website. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.